Good morning, guys. This is Tim from Grumpy Old Mechanics. Happy New Year's. Today we're going to be doing a wheel bearing on a 2019 Ford Escape. Just want to show you real quick, if you can hear the wheel bearing growling, but you can't exactly tell where it is, jack up the car. If you hold on to the spring, now I can't spin this because the tire's off and it is all-wheel drive. If you spin the wheel while you're holding onto the spring, you'll actually feel the vibrations coming up through the bearing, and you'll know that that is where the bearing's bad. The spring amplifies the vibrations so you can feel it a lot better. So we're going to go ahead and get this bearing replaced and get him on his way. Forgot to mention, on a side note, we are doing brakes on this. Back of the rotor's all rusted out. So the first thing you want to do is take this spring clamp off. I just use a flathead screwdriver to pop it out. I'm going to pop these two caps off the back. That's normally a 7mm hex. Alright guys, so I am popping the brake caliper off now. Swing that out of the way. You see the pads aren't in too bad a shape, but that back of the rotor is rotted out pretty bad. Alright guys, for this caliper bracket, there's two 13mm bolts that hold it on. There we go, I got the two 13mm bolts out and the caliper bracket. Next up, since we're replacing the pads and rotors, I'm just going to smack that off. Right there is the back side of the rotor. Alright, so these normally get pretty rusty. These are the other end of the bolts for the wheel bearing. I'm going to go ahead and spray that down a while and take that axle nut off. The axle nut on this vehicle is a 32mm. Now this axle shaft is rusted into the bearing, so I'm putting this back on a few threads so I don't mess the threads of the axle shaft up. Now that I got that pounded through and somewhat loose, I'm going to go ahead, lift the vehicle up, and we can get the 4 back bolts out. Okay guys, here you can see the 4 back bolts. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there. And you'll have to trust me that there's one back there too that you can't see. Now they are E-Torques, but 11mm will fit on them just fine. Okay, I got my 11mm impact on here. Right tool for the job every time, right guys? 1. 2. 3. And 4. Now I do have E-Torques here, but they're not swivel and they're not impact. So yeah, that's why I'm just using that. Fits fine. Didn't even bitch the heads up at all. So now we're gonna put it down and beat it out. Alright guys, let's see how easy this thing comes off. Pretty new car, it should come off easy, but that doesn't mean anything. Just want to kind of work your way around. shaft still isn't quite free yet. I don't want to pull that axle shaft out, so I'm gonna give it a couple more whacks. Still stuck in there pretty good. There we go. Wheel bearing's out. It's definitely bad. Want to make sure this kneading surface is clean of any chunky rust. So now we're going to go ahead and reinstall it. Don't forget to put the backing plate on. And don't forget to put the backing plate on the correct way. I'm going to go ahead and start my 4 E-Torques. Alright guys, so I got the E-Torques kind of started. I'll zip them in a little bit, pull that a little closer. Now normally when I tighten these, I still do the good old star pattern. I go back and hit the first one I did again to make sure it's snugged up. Now we're going to tighten the axle nut back up, 32 mil. Now normally this is where we're done with the bearing, just put the brakes back together, good to go. But in this case, we're doing pads too. So there's a couple more steps I need to do. So the first thing I need to do is compress this caliper. It is a spinning caliper. I got this very nice Lisle set that seemed to have worked for every single thing I did. Has a bunch of different adapters in it. These 2 little pins here will slide into the 2 little pins on the caliper piston here. Now I'm just going to tighten up this big part here just by hand. That's nice and tight, hand tight. Now this part on this tool is a 14. So do not ever use an impact gun on it. Now you can see I was going at a very slow rate of speed. Now you generally want these 2 pinholes here to be lined up and down because there's usually a notch on the back of the pad that fits in there. So next I'm going to put the rotor on. And on this bracket I want to make sure these are cleaned and lubed up. So I got those 2 13 mils tightened up. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the brake pads on. The one with this spring clip goes in the back, and this one here that doesn't have a spring goes in the front. Same as before, it's out on my 7mm hex. Now once you get those 2 7 mils put back in here, just put these little covers back over them. Whether or not they really help do anything, I don't know. Most decent brake pads will come with a new spring clip, and this just helps keep the brake noise down. Gets a little bit more even pad wear because it will actually clamp the caliper down. I always start by putting one end in the second one, holding it up with my finger, it's in close to the hole. And there we go. That's how you do brakes and a wheel bearing on one of these. I'm going to go finish up the other side. I'm going to put the wheel back on and get it thrown up on the lemon rack. If you guys like this video, find it helpful, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below and I'll answer them as quick as I can.